What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 161. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk and discuss about movies. Movies that come out in theaters or in streaming. We'll talk about them, give some pros and cons, give you some high-level thoughts on whether you should check them out in theaters. And then at the end of the podcast, we decide, after one viewing, is this movie timeless? Is it something that I can see myself rewatching various different times in the future? Or maybe I might want to own it as a Blu-ray or physical media disc. Now, sometimes my takes are okay, and then sometimes my takes are pretty terrible. But the cool thing is that we can voice our opinions and really just talk about the movies that we are enjoying watching over this year and really beyond as well. So if you want to voice your opinion about the movies that you're watching, well, follow the Timeless Movie Podcast. We are on all platforms like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Subscribe, follow the channel, leave a review. Would really appreciate your guys' feedback. And then also there's comments in Spotify and YouTube. Leave your thoughts about some of the movies that you've been watching or some of the reviews that we've done. And also we have a timelessmoviepod@gmail.com email. Reach out to me. I actually got an email from Dan. He actually had commented in a couple of other prior reviews as well. So shout out to Dan. He actually sent me a note about his thoughts on Begonia. And so he had a very interesting take on the ending. I think he agreed with my brother. But again, feel free, reach out to me. Would love to shout you guys out in regards to some of your thoughts on movies that we talk about. Speaking of Begonia, episode 160 of the Timeless Movie Podcast is out on all the platforms that I mentioned. So go listen to it. My brother Omar joins me to talk about the new film from Yorgos Lanthimos, Begonia. I had a fun time watching this movie. It's so weird. It's so wacky, but I was just so hooked the entire time. So go check out that episode and then let me know in the comments as well. Do you agree or disagree on my opinions on that film either being or not being timeless? All right, now let's go ahead and segue into this week's movie, in which we are talking about the new film from Guillermo del Toro, and it is called Frankenstein. Now, little tidbit on here. I'm pretty sure you guys are not going to be surprised with this little fact about myself, but I'm not a movie buff. I'm trying to catch up on a lot of movies, but Frankenstein is actually one of those movies, and really the various iterations of Frankenstein, but even the classic, the Universal monster, Universal Studios Frankenstein, I haven't actually watched that one. So that is hopefully on my list and my queue to be able to watch eventually. So again, my history of Frankenstein is really just with, absorbing that through pop culture in a way, and obviously going to Universal Studios multiple different times. But just wanted to lay that out before we start talking about this film, is that this is really my first actual Frankenstein film that I'm able to kind of check out and watch really and try to understand and see if I enjoy it or not. So hopefully that kind of lays a little bit of the groundwork in regards to some of the thoughts that I'm going to call out in regards to this film. So let's go ahead now and move over to the non-spoiler section. That way we can discuss a little bit more about Frankenstein. Okay, Frankenstein is directed by Guillermo del Toro, who has made films like Blade 2, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Shape of Water, many other films. And if you have seen any of Guillermo del Toro's films, you'll know that he has a specific kind of artistic style, the design of his films. Everything feels sort of practical as much as it can. And so it's a very interesting type of a style to be able to watch on film, just because, you know that he's going to have something very elaborate, something that is very much, that can captivate your eye, I guess. And so in Frankenstein, he has actors Jacob Elordi, Mia Goth, Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz, Charles Dance, and even Ralph Ineson. So many great actors in this film. And essentially, what is this movie about? Let me give you a little plot synopsis just to break things down a little bit more. But again, I don't think there's anything too surprising, especially if you've either read the Frankenstein, novels or books, or if you've seen other Frankenstein films. But essentially, in Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, this film essentially goes through the classic tale of Victor Frankenstein, played by Oscar Isaacs, creating the creature. And you see the kind of the inception of that idea that he has to create this monstrosity in a way. And then you also get to see from the side of the monster how he ends up kind of dealing with a world that doesn't understand him and doesn't know what to do with him. So that's essentially what the movie is about overall. Just seeing the creation of this creature. And you obviously get to decide, well, who really is the monster? Is it this creature that is played by Jacob Elordi, or is it Victor Frankenstein himself? Overall, after watching this movie, I got lucky enough to be able to find a showtime and actually watch it in theaters. And so, after I left the theater, watching it with my brother, I thought this movie was pretty good. Nothing sensational, nothing that really blows me away. And I think that has to do with this story, right? I've seen this story play out various different times, even in some of the filmography of Guillermo del Toro. Like, he's made films about these unique and interesting creatures. Like, I believe in The Shape of Water, or like even Hellboy. It deals with like this monster or this creature that is just so different from the world that you're seeing. And so I believe that since we've seen stories and films play out about a monster that feels out of place, you usually know what's going to happen in these kind of films. I was hoping that because we already have so much of this knowledge of Frankenstein and so much of the history and the lore of it, that maybe there'd be a little twists here and there. How would they change it? How would they make this different? And there wasn't really anything significant, at least that I could pick up. I could be completely wrong, but to me, the story in Frankenstein is pretty straightforward. The narrative is pretty simple and easy to kind of follow. There's nothing that really kind of changes things up. Everything pretty much follows the story that I have at least been able to experience through life and knowing of the character of Frankenstein. However, there are some cool things that I do want to call out about this film. So let's go ahead now and move over to the pros and cons. That way we can go a little bit more in depth on some things I liked and maybe some things I didn't like. Okay, Frankenstein, first pro, I gotta say that it's gonna be, and this is such an easy one, it's a layup. It's Guillermo del Toro and his production design. The sets in this movie and the way that they were able to just kind of make everything so practical is just a huge positive for me. I really love that whether you're in Frankenstein's lab, whether you're in the Great Hall where Victor Frankenstein is presenting his idea of bringing somebody back from the dead, and those kind of interior shots, and then even the interior shots of different homes that you see within the Frankenstein film, everything just looks so believable. Like, you can actually touch it. You're seeing the characters and the actors go through various different rooms. And again, I love it when things are more practical, because it just kind of eliminates that piece of your brain that's like looking for things that are fake, and it allows you to really just kind of get immersed in the story. So from a production design perspective, really enjoyed that. Also, just to kind of lump this in as well, I really actually like the lighting within various different scenes. There are certain points, and again, I'm going to bring this scene back up, but there's a moment in the first act of the film where you have Oscar Isaac's Victor Frankenstein at the Great Hall, and he is presenting to other scholars. And there's a big window and light just shining through, and it's almost like a spotlight focusing on Victor Frankenstein as he comes up with this ridiculous idea to the scholars of trying to bring back somebody that is dead and trying to play God. And so this whole scene, again, there's just that one source of lighting, which is coming from the window, but it looked really cool. I really dug how they were able to set that scene up. And that happens multiple times, even in the home or this big castle that Victor Frankenstein ends up purchasing or getting the help to be purchased. He has this like little almost basement or in a dungeon. And even then, like, you could barely see their faces, and it's because of the lighting that is being done within all the different sets. So really appreciated that little touch within the film. Okay, second pro for Frankenstein has got to be the themes that play out in this movie. This one's an obvious one, right? You have the simple theme of, well, who is the real monster in these stories, right? You think that it's this creature that is brought back from the dead. It's, he's actually the monster. But no, as you start noticing a little bit more, it's actually humans that are the monsters. But there's also another little theme that I feel like they try to include a little bit more of, which is also the aspect of nature and versus nurture. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, it's more of the aspect of when you grow up, what is shaping your world? Is it nature? Is it the world around you that is shaping you to become the person you are? Or is it nurture? Is it your family? Is it your brothers and sisters, your parents? Are they the ones that are influencing you to become what you are? And so I kind of like that aspect as well that they highlighted, because you see that between Victor Frankenstein and the creature. You see them both kind of get a little bit of both of those aspects. And you're kind of at least in my brain, I was trying to understand, oh, okay, so, can we at least defer to the fact that, well, maybe sometimes it's a combination of both, or sometimes, yeah, like depending on the nurture that you get, sometimes it could be negative, and that's something that ends up impacting your life in a very significant way. Again, I don't want to spoil too much about it, but we can talk a little bit more about that in the spoiler section. But I really like that concept that they try to input into this Frankenstein film. And then last but not least, the final pro I have for Frankenstein is the breaking up of the story. Again, I really enjoy when filmmakers are able to kind of break out their stories in chapters, or, doing in different types of nonlinear ways. In this case, Guillermo del Toro ends up kind of breaking the film up into two tales. First tale from Victor Frankenstein's perspective, as he goes from a child all the way up to the moment that he creates the creature, and then all hell breaks loose in his life. And then the second part of the tale is from the point of when the creature is created onward, when he's trying to really find Victor Frankenstein. And at this point in the story, you don't really know why he's trying to find him, or what's going on, and why is there conflict. But I don't know. I really enjoyed how they were able to kind of split those stories out, because it does a really good job to be able to show the upbringing of Victor, but also what is the impact and the really the way that the creature also shapes his life. How is he able to learn after leaving Victor Frankenstein's lab? So really enjoyed that piece of it. Okay, moving on to some cons that I have about the Frankenstein film. First one, this one is again going to be a personal nitpick, but the resolution to the film I felt was kind of quick, very fast. How they were able to resolve the situation of Victor Frankenstein and the creature, how that all played out, and I totally get it from a story and a narrative perspective why it would need to occur in that kind of a way. But I wish there was a little bit more to kind of lead us into this kind of a situation where you have the creature face off against Victor Frankenstein. I wanted there to be a little bit more of that kind of a tension and conflict. Even though you see that tension throughout the movie, I just felt the resolution was just boom, it immediately resolves, movie's over. So felt that was a little too quick. And then my second con, which might kind of be a little bit weirder, that I know that I wanted a little bit more of the resolution, but I also felt that the movie was just a little bit long. I feel like there was a couple of things that could have been cut from the part one of the tale, which is from Victor Frankenstein's perspective. There was a couple things that just maybe dragged on a little bit too much. Again, it's not like I'm saying that the movie is super slow. It's not. It has a really good pace. I just feel like some scenes are just extended a little too long, and we can kind of just cut things out in that kind of a sense. But again, that's just a personal thing on my side. Maybe you guys will disagree about that. Moving on to the next segment, which is going to be, should you guys check this movie out? Now, good thing is that this movie is actually going to be made available on Netflix November 7th. So if you guys have an actual Netflix subscription, the question then is, should you watch Frankenstein? My personal opinion is going to be, if you are already a big fan of Guillermo del Toro, if you're a fan of Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, Jacob Elordi, I would say give this one a shot. Just be prepared. If you've seen the Frankenstein story or some type of iteration of this, I don't feel like there's anything really, significantly different or new. And be prepared. It is 2.5 hours long. So if you're into Guillermo del Toro's films, his art, his direction, then yes, give this one a shot. Again, to me, I don't think this is anything new, anything different, but I still found the positives out of it as well. If you're not really a fan of Guillermo del Toro's style and the way that he's able to kind of create these types of monster tales, then maybe this is going to be a skip for you. All right, everybody, those are all of my non-spoiler thoughts around Frankenstein. Let's go ahead now and start spoiling some more stuff. Let's dive in and start talking about, is this film timeless? But before we do that, please jump out of the video now or the podcast in case you do not want to be spoiled. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the spoiler aspects of this film. So again, if you don't want to be ruined by the film, please jump out of the video now watch the movie when it comes out on Netflix, and then come back and then let me know if you agree or disagree with some of my thoughts. Okay, hopefully that gives everybody enough time to jump out. Let's go in to the first question in the spoiler section, which is going to be, is Frankenstein timeless? Is it something that I would rewatch in the future and would want to own in physical media? For me, it's going to be a very simple answer. It's going to be a no in regards to it being timeless. Uh, Biggest reason why is I feel like this film just doesn't have the type of energy and it doesn't highlight like as an epic tale. It's showing you, and it looks from trailers like this epic journey and story. And even though it looks that way, I feel like the energy doesn't match what you're seeing sometimes. And so as I was watching it, I was still impressed with, again, production, how everything looked. I forgot to say the performances of Mia Goth, Oscar Isaacs, Jacob Elordi, Christoph Waltz. Everybody did their job. There was never anything that felt awkward. I just was never put in a position where I was in awe. And I really do dig these types of movies and narratives that kind of take you a little bit out of your real world. This feels like, again, something that's, in our past, long time ago. And, there's themes that really make sense. But I don't know. I feel like I was hoping for something different, something unique. And obviously, the design of the creature, the design of what you see Jacob Elordi, what he's wearing, what his monster looks like is really cool. But I don't know. I feel like there needed to be more in regards to the story to kind of make it a lot more interesting. That's me, though. Again, that's just how I felt about the film. I knew that it was going to be some type of a grand and epic scale, but I don't know. It just never really hit that high mark that I was looking for. So again, although I don't think it's timeless, I still think it's a good film. It's still something that's really cool to check out. But maybe my opinion might change if I watch other Frankenstein films and then I notice that, hey, maybe this one actually does something different. So if there are some Frankenstein films and stories that you guys really like, please send those over either through our email, timelessmoviepod@gmail.com, or leave it in the comments. Would love to hear your guys' recommendations on Frankenstein films or movies or novels and anything, and happy to check those out as well. Now, before we wrap up the podcast, there are a couple of things that I wanted to quickly highlight that I really enjoyed, but couldn't say earlier because it probably would have been a spoiler, but wanted to call out one of my favorite shots. There's this cool moment where you have Victor Frankenstein. We're in part 2 of this tale. What ends up happening? Well, Victor Frankenstein ends up trying to get rid of the monster. He tries to burn him alive in his lab, and the Frankenstein monster ends up escaping, and he ends up, going through this whole path of, trying to understand who he is in this world, what he is, and eventually he's able to, learn the language, and he tries to just basically haunt and terrorize Victor Frankenstein. And so eventually they have this conflict. And so there's this one moment where you have Victor Frankenstein trying to hunt and get rid of this creature that he created. And he's going through the snow. He's trying to chase down the monster. And then he's at his tent with his sleigh dogs that he has. And then all of a sudden, some of the sleigh dogs start barking. And then you see in the distance, the sun is setting on this snowy environment. And you just see a creature all in black. He's kind of hooded. He has some type of a big coat. And it is the creature played by Jacob Elordi. And that one shot was just so cool. That was probably the highest, the feeling I got where like it felt very epic. But again, that's just one of those really cool frames that I think I'm always going to remember about this movie because of how it looked. And that's one I actually appreciated that it stayed a little bit longer as well. So that was my favorite shot of the movie. If I could give out like a favorite moment or scene that I really enjoyed, I think I would go with one of the scenes where I think I called it out a little bit earlier, but there's a moment where Victor Frankenstein is in the Great Hall and he's trying to explain to his fellow scholars that we need to go beyond some of the generic structure that is being taught. And so he feels like, he wants people to go and not be obedient and go outside the box. And so that was a really good kind of monologue that Victor Frankenstein has. There's also another cool moment where towards the end of the movie, you have the face-off again of Victor Frankenstein and the creature. And there's a point where, again, this creature just cannot die at all. Every time he gets shot, he gets cut, he's able to heal because of the crazy experiment that Victor Frankenstein pulled off. And then there's a moment where you have Victor who wants to basically use dynamite to blow him up. And the creature just grabs the dynamite and he says, "You think this is going to kill me? Well, let's try it out." And he basically, and I'm paraphrasing, that's not exactly what he says, but I'm just paraphrasing, but he basically says, "Let's try this out. Let's see if it actually does kill me." And he tells Victor Frankenstein to light it up. And then he tells him, "Run." And he's able to run, get away, and it just blows up. The dynamite blows up right in the creature's face, and it doesn't even phase him. It might blow off a little bit of his skin, but then it eventually just kind of re-heals itself. And so that was a really cool scene because I was also curious, like, okay, is an actual dynamite stick gonna do any effect to him? And it really didn't. So that was another cool moment as well that added a little bit of tension. All right, and then the last aspect that I wanted to talk a little bit about was the nature and nurture aspect that I mentioned as one of my pros. Again, this theme was very just something very small. It wasn't something that was highlighted as much, but I really liked how they were trying to portray it for both Victor Frankenstein and the creature. You have the upbringings of both, and in one case, you have Victor Frankenstein who has a mother. Her mother loves Victor, but it's Victor's father that, like, whips him into shape. He shows no emotion towards Victor and just wants him to be prepared to be a doctor. And so in this kind of a world, you end up getting Victor turn into the man he is because of his father. And he's going to do something that he just wants to prove that he is better than him in every way. And it ends up making him a monster himself. It ends up making Victor Frankenstein the villain of this story. And then you have the creature himself, where again, he's just created out of multiple different pieces of body parts from people that fought in wars. And then as he starts kind of growing up into this world, he doesn't really have a parent or a figure. Instead, he has nature around him. He has the world, he has animals, he has the forest, and then he eventually does meet a friend within a specific little cottage, and he ends up teaching the creature how to talk. And the only reason he teaches him is because he's blind. And so he can't really see what the creature looks like. But he tells him, like, hey, just by the sound of your voice, by what you are, you seem like a good person. And so that, again, that could still be a little bit of the nurture piece of it, but it feels more of like the nature around him. The world around him is shaping the creature to be a good man. And so I really dug that kind of a breakout. Again, still very small. I could be way off because I know that nature and nurture could still, it's usually never one or the other. It could be always a combination of both, but just wanted to call that out as one of the other things that I noticed when watching this movie. All right, I think that's all I got for the movie Frankenstein. Once again, I don't think it's timeless, but that is just my opinion. More importantly, I want to hear from all of you. What are your thoughts on this Frankenstein film from Guillermo del Toro? Did you enjoy it? Did you like watching this movie? Is it epic? Is it one of your favorite movies of the year? Let me know down below in the comments. That way we can have a really cool discussion about this film. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys listening to my full thoughts on Frankenstein. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 161 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out our next episode in which we are covering the new film called Predator: Badlands. I am super pumped to watch that movie. So be on the lookout for the next episode so you can hear my thoughts on that film. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.